means for that I am. But what God is really saying is that there is nothing that does not come from God. God is the source of all life, all love, all holiness, all of the universe, all of everything. There is nothing before God, nothing after God. God is I am. And Moses, thankfully, gets it. Enough to say, okay, let me go to Pharaoh. For Moses to be himself, for Moses to respond to that deep thing inside of him, he has to answer the call of God. He has to be who God has made him to be. In our gospel reading, we have, and last week we heard, just in the passages right before this one, that Jesus posed to the disciples this question: who do you say that I am? And the disciples kind of dilly-dallied around and answered a few things. But Peter said, you are the Messiah. You are the Christ. And Jesus, who heard Simon Bar-Jonah, that was Peter's name before, he said to Simon Bar-Jonah, you will now be called Peter, which means rock. And upon you I will build my community. This is Peter's moment of baptism. When we were baptized, we are called by name for the first time in the Christian community. So the priest says, and what do you name this child? And the first time that that word is spoken, that name is called, that person becomes a person with a name in the Christian community. This is what happened to Peter. It was Peter's faith that took him from being Simon, son of Jonah, Bar-Jonah, to becoming Peter. Peter responded to the new call of God, the new way of being in the world. Right after that, whether Peter was afraid for his friend Jesus or concerned about what Jesus said, because Jesus said, now I have to go and answer my call. The Messiah must go and suffer and even die. And because of Peter's love and fear, he said, as all of us have said this, God forbid. Don't we all say that when somebody tells us something, we say, oh, God forbid that happens. That's exactly what Peter said to Jesus. And in a sense, it was, God forbid you go do what you should do. The gospel calls that a rebuke. Now, Tuesday, there are a lot of little kindergarten kids that are going to start school. And Mom and Dad, Grandma and Grandpa, are going to send those little guys off to school, and they are going to be afraid. Well, naturally so. The little child has been with the family, very connected, now all of a sudden is going to go to the school. And now there's 20 of those little tykes in one little classroom. And what are they going to do? And the parent wonders, is my kid going to be okay? Is he going to get hurt? Will they act the right way? Oh, please, God, don't let them say what Uncle Johnny always says. You know, I mean, there's just, parents are just beside themselves. So in my school, what we had is we had the PTA sponsor a Yahoo Boo-Hoo. And what that meant was when the parents are in the hallway, look at Johnny up. The kid is not looking at them. He's looking at all these other kids his size, and they have Crayolas. The parents are looking and thinking, oh, this is a big step. Kleenex for parents. Kids don't need it. Kids only need it when they get distracted if the parents stay too long. But the kids really are going to be okay. It is not possible when we love somebody to not have a sense of fear when we think that they might be afraid. We also know, as the parent knows, we have to let the kid go. Otherwise, they won't get an education. They won't discover their gifts and talents. They won't grow up and have the freedom and the wonder of being an adult. We have to let them go. When Jesus calls Peter Satan, that word is a word that comes out of the court system. The person that accused, stood, and read the charges was called the Satan. They were the accuser. And what Jesus is saying really to Peter is, don't accuse me. Don't call me out for doing what I must do. I have to answer the call. I am the Messiah. I have to go and do what God has called me to do. Do not hinder my call. That's what he's saying. Get behind me. Don't step in my way, because I have to answer the call. Jeremiah, not Jeremiah. We talked about, never mind. Skip Jeremiah. Romans gives us this idea of what it is like to live out our call. So you and I have that call, each one of us individually. And Romans says to us, here's a list of things to do. You need to be nice. You need to be hospitable. You need to be kind. Those are to the people that are nice and kind and hospitable to you. But darn it, you have to do it with the people that don't do that. Well, you've got to love the people that don't love you. How does our world change if we don't love those who don't love us? How does our community change if we don't care for those people who don't care for us or can't care for themselves? How do our families change if we don't love those who seem at times difficult or unlovable? The call that we have as Christians is to be what God has asked us to be. When we take up our cross, we take up the cross of love. It is the statement, the conviction, the willingness to say, above all, I will be a person of love. Whether it's easy with people that love me back, or more difficult with people who don't yet know how to love, or have never experienced love, or are wounded by love. If I am made in the image and the likeness of the great I am, that is God, the eternal source of love. If I am to act in response to that call, the urge of the Holy Spirit, every time I love, I am living out my call that I promised in baptism. That is the charism of our community. It is the charism of ourselves, our hearts. This is how we answer the call. Moses needed to lead the people out of Israel, out of Egypt. Peter needed to lead the early community. Jesus became and was and is for all time the Messiah, but put that into action. We too have to respond to our call. It is the call of love. This is what renews us and renews the face of the earth. That we make the decision today, like Moses and Peter, to say, yes, yes. Let me answer this call. Let me be an instrument of your love. God's peace be